And we're live.
Hello and welcome to episode 6. I can't believe we're up to 6 already.
When did we have Jason on?
That
Like
was
a
that
week
was like a
ago?
week ago.
Man, it's becoming nearly an everyday
I
event.
know. I
If you're
know.
watching this, please do not expect that to be sustained over the long term.
Yeah. There's a reason why we're ramping this up.
Yeah,
We've got an important conference which we'll get into.
we
For those
absolutely will.
for those who don't know us, we're the co-hosts of Token Affairs. I'm Brian Ventura. I'm a partner at Hamilton Locke, specializing in fintech and crypto law. This handsome gentleman to my right is Trevor Topfer. He's CEO and founder of Avatars Global and also executive director of Blockchain New Zealand.
Thank you. Great introduction. It's wild to have you again, Brian, poolside in Queenstown, getting ready for the big event.
I know.
Um,
I'm so excited.
I wish I could say that it was all sipping margaritas and enjoying the sunshine, but it's been anything but.
Yep.
And for anybody watching that has ever tried to run a major conference while running another business, you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't recommend you do it. I think you'd be a little bit crazy, and maybe I should start therapy or something.
maybe Token Affairs can be a therapy session
Token
after the
Affairs is my
conference.
therapy session. Yeah. So you can imagine the amount of prep that goes into each episode, folks. We're really, really religious. We have a run through a couple of days before with our guests. No, we throw it together, and you get it straight off the cuff like it should be. It can't get any more authentic than this, right?
Yeah. And you probably wouldn't know that Trevor's actually the producer of the show as well. There's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, this is an important episode because we are talking to probably the most or one of the most instrumental and pivotal people in digital assets in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the region, really, but definitely in Australia. Our guest today probably needs no introduction if you are in the industry and in our region. But for those of you who aren't familiar with Amy Rose, she is a one-man army driving this industry forward and has done more to push the industry forward in Australia than probably any other person in the space. So we're very fortunate. Yep. I know firsthand how little time Amy has and how much she squeezes into life. So for her to take, half an hour or an hour out of her day to come and join us on the podcast, we're very grateful.
Yeah.
So let's get her on, shall we?
Yes, please.
Okay, so introducing the one and only Amy Rose Goodey, who is the CEO of DECA, which is the Digital Economy Council of Australia. And for those of you who are paying attention, you'll notice the Aussie in the conversation here said DECA and not the Kiwi. But introducing the one and only Amy Rose. Welcome to the show, Amy Rose. Nice to see you.
I can't get over that introduction. That's so embarrassing. I just want to clarify that it's not a one-man show. This is a thriving industry here, and I stand on the shoulders of giants every single day. And the team here, we're small, so there's a couple of full-timers at the association, very similar to you, Trevor, except you're the only full-timer at Blockchain New Zealand.
Well, I'm not even supposed to be full-time. Yeah, I'm only a part-timer. You wouldn't think there is, but sometimes I'm definitely not. But yes, it's only
So we're very, very small, and yeah, we do put a great deal of effort into it and put our lives on hold for the betterment of the industry. But yeah, it's thriving here. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's, I talk about it all the time, but it's a very special thing to be a part of. Like, it's not very often that you get to be right at the birth of an industry that's doing so much disruption and change throughout the world. We keep losing Brian. He just keeps slipping out. I think his internet's having a terrible time.
It looks like it.
But yeah, it's so rare, right, to have a moment where you can be part of an industry that's literally the entire industry is at its birth.
Yeah.
And, we're 15 years in, but really we're 5. The first 10 were kind of backwater, Silk Road, dark web, kind of mysterious, Wild West stuff. And it's only been the last sort of 4 or 5 years that it's really started to mature and come of age. Let's bring Brian back. Are you there, mate?
Yeah, sorry, didn't pay my internet bill.
Just come inside, out of the pool area.
I know.
He must be running off for cocktails. He's slipping out the door to go and grab himself another Mai Tai.
Having a sneaky sip. But sorry for cutting that off, because I think that was a really important point that Trevor and Amy Rose were making.
Yes, that it is a very exciting time in this industry. And with Trump hitting the ground running in November last year, it's put a big shot in the arm of the industry, and we're starting to feel those effects,
ripple effects
in our region. We had Steve Vallis, who we all know and love, on the show. When was that? Feels like it was a week ago, but it was probably yesterday.
A few days ago.
2 days ago. 2 days ago. Episode 4. Check out episode 4 with Steve Vallis. Shout out to Steve, who is the most traveled. Like, he's the Rolling Stones of the industry, right? He's everywhere. I think he just lives. He's a lifestyle guy, right? He just lives in hotels and moves from one place to the next and doesn't have any fixed abode. But he's able to kind of gave us an insight as to what's going on firsthand on the ground in the US. And it's just incredible what's happening over there. Like, they have done a 180 and they are all in, and they are gobbling up as much of this space as fast as possible, and really sending a shot across the bow to other jurisdictions like ours. They get your shit together and get moving, or it's going to be over, right? Like, we're going to take it all. So
if you're missing out.
Yeah, we're all having a bit of FOMO, but it's been a really, really positive sort of 6-8 months now that we've been able to ride the wave. And I know Policy Week in March was huge. The atmosphere there was just electric. The same at D-Conference, which was about a month or so ago. Amy Rose, your event on the Gold Coast, again, another just people on a mission, right? Like, absolutely focused, firing on all cylinders. The atmosphere is electric at these things. It's anything but your stereotypical conferences and stereotypical kind of groups of people coming together. Everybody's wheeling and dealing. Everybody wants to move things forward. Everybody's connecting, and you know, there's none of this sort of, oh, those guys are our competition and we don't talk to those guys over there and any of that sort of stuff. It's all, let's go, let's get this thing up and running. So
rising tides. And Amy Rose plays a really key role in that. As from the outside looking in from New Zealand, you know, we always want to see what our bigger cousins are doing. And it seems like, you know, Amy Rose and her team at DECA, they're the connective tissue of everything. And before, we'd love to hear more about what you do at DECA, but also we'd also love to find out, what was your red pill moment? What got you into digital assets?
Where did it all start, Amy Rose?
Yeah, so we're going to have to go back about 10 years for that moment. And look, it's fun to reflect on how far we've come and the evolution of the technology itself and the applications. The red pill moment for me was when I've been, and this is live, and I haven't been live since I did live radio, 20 years ago or so. But anyway, so I'll put it out there that I was a human rights activist, and I was very much involved in technology for good and looking at technology for good. And I had some money to invest, and I looked at Bitcoin as more of a club that I could join. It was back before it was looked at more as an investment. It was looked at more of, let's join this movement and buy some of this money, which was
magical internet money.
Very different. Everything, there wasn't any other a lot of crypto going around. It was Bitcoin alone. But anyway, so I got into that, and then blockchain came around, and the promise of blockchain and decentralization. And once you go down that rabbit hole and you see the opportunity for humans to thrive in a new structure and in a new
financial system
operable world, that's really what got me hooked. And then I joined the association about 6 years ago and have been here ever since.
Amazing. So you bought Bitcoin. What was that?
I'm not going to say.
How,
I'm not gonna. I don't want anyone to put me into a box, or
the Australian Tax Office might be listening.
They are regular listeners to Token Affairs. They watch this with their books open, and the SEC is also now tuning in. So shout out to the SEC and AC. Good to have you guys on. So you bought Bitcoin as a revolutionary. You know, is that right? You sort of looked at it and went, "This is something that I believe in. This aligns with my values, and I think this is something that I want to kind of see take flight." And the promise of decentralized money, decentralized financial systems, financial sovereignty, ownership, all of those great things that we now speak about all the time. And it was such an exciting time because I bought Bitcoin in 2012, so that makes me a fucking OG. But I lost it immediately after because I had no idea what I was doing. But you know, I saw it as the future of money as well, and that was kind of what excited me about it, was this idea that there could be this system that worked, that was fairer and just more capable and available to the average person, and wasn't sort of dictated by a small group of very, very, very wealthy people. There's interesting things happening in our space right now that's got those OGs, or those degens that kind of, you know, were the early adopters in the industry and were fighting that same fight that you're talking about, Amy Rose, are now up in arms with all of this stablecoin stuff and government regulation and Trump moving everything over, and, you know, this fear that we're just getting more of the same, right? That our beautiful vision for decentralized economics is now becoming more centralized and more controlled. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, coming from your background. Are you still fighting the good fight, or are you starting to feel like that might be some less than salubrious forces joining in now?
Yeah, look, I've always said that technology is neutral. Like it's neither good nor bad, and there are amazing use cases for this technology, and that I'm seeing thrive globally, and there are opportunities for developers and builders to take advantage of that. We haven't seen the full rollout of the technology yet. We still have roadblocks with respect to regulation and lack of investment, and just a real lack of talent, particularly in Australia. I know it's the same in New Zealand as well. So we don't have an opportunity to really see how impactful the technology could be, because we're sort of gatekept at the moment. We've just got too much friction at the moment. I am very optimistic though. Once we see some clarity around what we can build with the right regulatory framework, we will see the opportunity become very obvious. And so that's when I think we'll see more decentralized infrastructure as part of the digital economy emerge, and that's across digital ID. There's a lot of decentralized applications already being built, not as many locally in Australia as I'd like to see, but globally it's definitely front and center. So yeah, look, I'm optimistic. The technology is built to be decentralized, compared to other technologies. So it really has only upwards to go once we have the right framework.
I mean, my thesis for years has always been that, digital assets is one of the few things, and Trevor has a really funny joke, I'm sure he'll chime in, that digital assets is one of the few things that I know that actually needs regulation to really legitimize it and really drive full mainstream adoption. And then from that regulation, it'll open up more investment, which will mean more jobs, more taxpayers. It'll mean larger tax base for the government. It'll mean more innovation, which benefits consumers. And from what we see, DECA seems to be front and center about leading the conversation in Australia about having regulations for the industry, what those regulations could look like. Could you maybe dive a bit deeper into that?
Yeah, so DECA we're the peak industry body for blockchain and digital assets and the wider digital economy. So all the technologies, and there is a great deal of them that are intersecting with blockchain and digital assets. You cannot have a flourishing, a thriving, a global world-leading digital economy without blockchain and digital assets and a number of other applications and stable coins, and obviously the tokenization of real-world assets, all intersecting with the blockchain. So the Digital Economy Council is an advocate of that pathway. And so to achieve a globally leading digital economy, we as the Digital Economy Council of Australia, the team, our board of directors, our members, we want to see a fit-for-purpose regulatory regime for the industry so that we can thrive. So there's a lot of roadblocks at the moment. We are seeing some movement, and it's moving in a positive direction now after so many years.
Right.
But yeah, that's essentially what we do here at DECA.
So I know it's been a long, hard road for you, and I always talk about the underlying technology, which you've talked about now as being kind of the core focus, but everybody's attention is all the hype and the bullshit that sits on top of that technology. So I think it's interesting that, you know, we're still in that. I think we're still in that stage where we're still playing on the surface. We're still bouncing around. Most people still associate blockchain with crypto, and crypto is only one component of it. It seems to be the most exciting part at the moment because people are making money and people are figuring out how to create efficiencies in financial systems. But I think you're right. What I'm passionate about, and I think we're aligned here, Amy Rose, is that what comes next, like what sits underneath all of that, as the regulatory frameworks start to catch up and I guess facilitate growth in this sector, we start to see all of the other opportunities that come out. So I was recently talking to somebody about tokenizing the supply chain for wool and using blockchain as a way to go from the farm to the end retailer and having a documented journey, which doesn't exist at the moment. And so, you know, that gives an opportunity for, say, Kiwi wool producers, which are world renowned, and we have some of the most highly regarded wool in the world, that ability to track that journey, and then, you know, end consumers can know that this is definitely 100% Kiwi wool, but it's come from this particular farmer, and this is the journey that it's gone on. And that has a whole lot of applications around, you know, authenticity. It could be premium products. It gives you a connection to your textiles that you would never have normally had. And so there's these interesting, you know, and these are sort of early conversations. I'd love to know if you're getting any of that sort of stuff that you're going, wow, that's a really cool application of blockchain technology that helps, you know, create a new market or solve an existing problem. Like, what are some of the things that you're having conversations around that sort of, let's park the whole crypto conversation for a minute and sort of talk a little bit about what else is going on in Australia that you're seeing?
Yeah, look, I mean, supply chain has been front and center in the blockchain conversation since the inception, and so we can't really argue with, you know, the transparency and auditability potential when leveraging from blockchain in supply chain. But look, the real world asset tokenization piece is in every conversation. You know, there's a lot happening across all, you know, various markets, you know, in order to unlock liquidity, the traditional sort of illiquid assets, enhance that market efficiency. So there's a lot of points we can make around the benefits of leveraging from the technology. And in fact, look, we're doing a research project with the DFCRC. It's sponsored by OKX, and it'll be launched in November. But we're really speaking to what the right policy settings around the technology could do for the Australian economy. And so what the DFC has released so far in advance of the final report is that it could unlock around $19 billion or around 1% of GDP if we do leverage from this technology through innovation and cross-border payments, for example. So there's a lot of opportunity around getting the policy settings right so that people can innovate and start to leverage from tokenization, leverage from blockchain, implemented across supply chains. And look, we need the right policy settings around stablecoins as well. We need digital asset platform legislation rolled out as soon as possible. And there's so much happening. There's intersecting at the same time. There's a lot of reforms happening in Australia, converging. There's a convergence of reforms happening. So we are going to see in the next, I think, 18 months, and people will quote me on this, I'm happy to say that, but we are going to see some clarity around that. But it's still, you know, a 10-year plan, because we'll get this initial reform underway, and then there's going to be new markets evolve, new issues, you know, come to light, new products and new services, because once we see the ability to innovate, we'll see the intersection of a bunch of other technologies coming together, the great convergence, as I call it, when we see AI, for example, really leveraging from blockchain. And you can probably talk about that, Trevor, in more detail. But once we see, you know, that first step of innovation freely taking place, once we have the clarity, we'll see new tech stacks emerge. And then that's a whole new beast that we're going to have to create policy settings around. So we've got decades ahead of us. We just need to take the first step. And I went on a tangent there, but I just really needed to get that off my chest, because I think it's really important here in Australia.
I couldn't agree with you more. You know, I've only been really seriously engaged in this sort of regulatory landscape with blockchain since November last year, and you know, just seeing how much friction there is that's just slowing things down and holding back an enormous group of passionate, talented, smart people that really want to take advantage of the technology and all of the benefits that it offers. And it's just sort of this, you know, the 10 years we were talking about, where it was all just sort of degens and, you know, madness and the Wild West, that's sort of left this taint on the whole industry that's holding everything back. And I can totally understand it from a regulators and government point of view. But we've grown up a lot. You know, the industry has moved on so much further than where it was, but those attitudes just are persistent, right? And the longer that they stick around, the slower things are and the less opportunity there are for New Zealand, Australia, and this region, where we've got people like screaming for regulation, like, come on, give us some playing field, give us some security, because there's billions, if not trillions of dollars available right now. And if we move quick, we can really lock that up and take advantage of it and add that to our GDP. I believe, and I'm sure as I bring Brian back in, hopefully he's now connected to his Starlink and not his potato. Internet wrong. But you know, I just think that there's enormous amount of growth and opportunity that we're missing out on, and if we don't jump on it, we're just going to get handed what's left, right? We'll just, you know, US companies, UAE companies are just going to go, oh, Australia have this, you know, oh, New Zealand, this is what you've got. And we've got incredibly smart people. We're smaller, more nimble countries. And, you know, Aussies and Kiwis, we roll up our fucking sleeves and we get the job done. You know, we don't sit around on bureaucracy. We're not that sort of people. We've built incredibly, you know, productive nations, wealthy nations with very few people and very few resources that we've been able to do it. And this industry is no different. And, you know, we go to these conferences and see these people, you know, they're inspirational and they're literally having to try and grow their businesses with both hands tied behind their back and one eye closed.
Yeah, I think we are seeing a shift, and so that's why I'm probably laughing and more optimistic and happy, because it's, you know,
me too.
We're seeing. So look, in the past we had the wrong questions being asked, and you can't give the right answer to the wrong question is something that I'm seeing. And we're seeing a shift with our local politicians. And so yesterday, for example, some really good questions were brought up in a meeting that we had with Dr. Andrew Charlton, who's the Assistant Minister for Science, Technology and the Digital Economy, and also the Assistant Treasurer, Dr. Daniel Molino. And in the past, and I was reflecting on this, in the past we had the old sort of questions, how do we fit this technology into the current regulation? How do we rein this in to protect Australians? Obviously, consumer protection is and needs to be front and center. But there are new questions. What's the new way of thinking? How do we create a bespoke framework around this new technology, around this new infrastructure? And they're asking, how do we create fit for purpose regulation rather than what's the cost associated with this industry thriving? And the reverse. The new question is, how do we regulate in ways, or how do we create the right policy settings to unlock the productivity? So they were asking us, share with us the benefits, not the problems, but what are the benefits? How can we leverage from the technology for the betterment of Australia? And that was a really refreshing reflection that I took from that meeting. So I am a little bit more optimistic. Obviously, the timeframes have changed, and we're expecting that draft legislation for the end of the year, and there's more optimism. But that's a shift that I've seen. Just now asking questions.
Jason Titman, who was our first guest, he was talking about we're in an inflection point. And I can see that from New Zealand, inflection point in Australia at least. And when I attend events in Australia, I see really educated comments from both sides of the aisle from politicians. And I think that it's a testament to the work that you and DECA and the industry have had engaging positively with both sides of the aisle, with government agencies. And in New Zealand, we've had 2 crypto DCEs, cryptocurrency exchanges collapse. One was Cryptopia, and the other one was Dasset. And my fear is, New Zealand politicians would come to the table about regulations in response to another collapse, and that could result in suboptimal regulations in New Zealand. And so I think it's refreshing that in Australia, the industry and the politicians seem to be engaging on regulations in a pretty calm environment and not in response to a crisis. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, the conversation is firmly on here in Australia on productivity and the benefit of technology. So look, we did go through FTX, and that was a moment where we were able to see what the consequence of a lack of regulatory reform looks like. And so, there was, all eyes were on the industry during that time. But since then, and obviously there's been a lot of engagement across multiple different departments here in Australia, we as the industry association continue to engage, and that's with AUSTRAC, the ATO, the work that the RBA and the DFCIC are doing, the National Anti-Scam Centre, and ASIC. There's continued engagement there, which has increased significantly since the fallout of FTX. So since then, there's been a maturation in the conversations, and now we've moved into that productivity conversation, and we've seen what other jurisdictions are doing, the US, the UK, Singapore, the UAE. We know that other jurisdictions are moving. Australia has an opportunity to move with the tide, and to lead. I still think there is an opportunity to lead, but time is running out. So yes, to answer your question, I think there was a knee-jerk reaction. We needed to see what would happen in that event so that we can prepare and draft legislation around the consequence of that and protect consumers. We need the framework to do that. So look, that's a silver lining, obviously, but to ensure that doesn't happen again. I think the framework was needed yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like since FTX, I wonder how many FTXs have been prevented by the industry, not by government, not by regulators, not by watchdogs, but by industry. It's been the response of the other exchanges and the other major corporations like Chainalysis and all of these other companies that are out there doing that work that have probably prevented another 2 or 3 FTXs since that's gone down. And that is just so unique to blockchain. I don't know of another industry, and Brian, you'd be much smarter about this than I would be. But is there another industry out there that is doing that work, self-policing, determined to try and show how important this technology is and how much opportunity it opens up for us? And yes, there's bad actors, but we'll go after them ourselves if we can't rely on the government. Everywhere I turn, there's this kind of driving forces. Like, we're coming whether you like it or not. We're so passionate and we believe in this technology and we believe in this future that we all understand that if you're not going to help us, we're just going to do it anyway. But we'd rather do it with you. And I wonder, how many FTXs have not happened as a result of it. I mean, I've seen some incredible technology that's been driven out. Amy Rose, the conversations you're having with government, the deep insight that you've got, you're talking about your group that you've managed to form, and I want to go back and just step back a little bit and go into that a little bit more. So you're talking about the Parliamentary Friends of Blockchain. Can you tell us the story? How did that all, that's a huge triumph in my mind that you've managed to get government on both sides, industry, everybody, regulators, everybody kind of sitting at the table and having adult conversations about how to move the industry forward. Can you tell us a little bit about how PFOB, and I'm bringing up the URL, look, there it is, how the Parliamentary Friends of Blockchain came about?
Look, it initially came about before my time in 2018, I think it was. Then there was a brief pause until last year when it was relaunched. Look, we have champions across both sides of government, and they and I think my suggestion for New Zealand would be to find those champions within government.
I agree.
We have Dr. Andrew Charlton, obviously, and Senator Andrew Bryan, who are the co-chairs of Parliamentary Friends of Blockchain. We come together at Parliament House as often as we can during the sitting weeks, and we host events and we host different government departments, advisors, MPs, and just different government representatives and staffers, and share information and network. Really, it's about meeting and greeting and information sharing.
Building advocacy, I imagine, is a big part of that agenda, right? Like spreading the advocacy from your two kind of co-chairs and out to kind of bring the government on the right. And what excites me about the Parliamentary Friends of Blockchain that you've created and that's being built and driven in Australia is these are the behind closed doors conversations that actually move the industry forward that nobody else is aware of. These are the quiet, as Amanda Wick calls them, the catalysts. These are the people who are working behind the scenes that aren't being talked about on crypto Twitter or any of that sort of stuff, and but are actually the ones that are pushing the industry forward in all these jurisdictions. So I think it's a huge triumph for you, and it's a bit of a kind of beacon for me over here in New Zealand to say, look, this is how it's done. This is how we move the industry forward. We get advocacy in government, and we get adult conversations happening on a regular basis, and then we drive action off the backs of those conversations, and things move forward. So, if you're watching in from Australia and you're not familiar with or a part of the Parliamentary Friends of Blockchain, the URL is somewhere down there. So check it out and get involved and get engaged with it, because it really is if you're just a Bitcoin degen or a meme coin degen, this is the group that's going to help shape and influence your industry that you care about for the foreseeable future. So it's a really important thing.
Those conversations really, I agree. those conversations are really building the plumbing, right, for the innovation that companies like Advertise Global and others will be building on top of.
Absolutely.
One theme that I've noticed through the 5 episodes Trevor and I have done so far is the colliding, or the merging of TradeFi and digital assets, and like DECA, it's kind of like the connective tissue of everything. And I'm keen to hear about what are you seeing from Australian TradeFi and potential mergings or partnerships with digital assets.
Yeah, look, TradFi is or has been a driving force behind some of the innovations, because the traditional markets see inefficiencies and then they stumble upon, or within their jobs at the bank, or in their businesses, they find better opportunities or better technologies and better infrastructure to solve some of their problems within their current sector, their current business model. Look, it's probably the driving force behind stablecoins, behind the new payment rails, behind reward asset tokenization. So some of the innovation that we see is from the old markets, I like to call them, and you can't have one without the other. It's you solve problems, and that's how the emergence of Bitcoin happened, right? So I do often reflect on that there's frustration around TradFi, but you certainly it's that first seed, it's a sprouting that comes from that, where new ways of thinking and new technologies emerge. So I do appreciate very much TradFi and the TradFi views.
Yeah, I think it's I think exactly you said, can't have one without the other. There's a lot of kind of talk in staunch DeFi circles that down with the system, and Bitcoin or bust, or decentralize everything, or all of these sorts of things. But the reality is that's never going to be a thing. There'll always be, I call it like a bell curve. There'll be TradFi extremes on one side, there'll be decentralized DeFi extremes on the other, but in the middle, where the bulk of the work is done, is there'll be this merging and blending of both, because you've got this legacy systems that's hundreds of years old, that runs the entire planet. You can't just screw that up and throw it in the bin. The entire world runs on it, but there are definitely problems with that system, and there's definitely ways to improve that system, and decentralized economy definitely helps solve and address a lot of those shortfalls and a lot of those issues. And more so, it opens up, like I guess we've been talking a little bit about it so far on the podcast, but it just opens up a whole nother world of potential. Products, industries, things that we haven't even thought of yet will build off off the back of this technology. We touched on supply chain, but I believe that what blockchain represents is almost like a rebuilding of the internet. It's kind of like a rebuilding of the fundamental layers of the internet, and the
trust layer.
Yeah, the way in which the internet works, and it's exactly that. It's the ledger of the internet, right? It's the way in which we track the movement of value and data, and make it legitimate, because AI is going to be very, very difficult to stop, and we're already seeing how much of an impact that AI's influence on the information streams already had. And that'll continue to burn. That's a forest fire that's already underway, and it will continue to spread until we get regulation, so that somebody can use blockchain to help put that fire out and rein it in. And so, these are the sorts of things that, why we screaming, regulators, please hurry up and do it, because we see all of these things happening, and without a clear playing field, we're building out a fucking Panama and,
or some offshore jurisdiction, some island
somewhere where there's less risk of a stroke of the pen collapsing my business. And therefore these weird jurisdictions are being utilized. We're getting the brain drain into all of these foreign companies, and that just exacerbates the problem. Like, where are you based? Oh, we're based in the British Virgin Islands. Oh, really? Yeah, nothing about that. And then everyone says, oh, you blockchain dudes, you crypto dudes are all based out of Panama and BVI. And it's like, because we don't have a choice, man. It's not that we want to be. We'd rather be an Australian or a Kiwi company, but we just don't have a choice. You're pushing us into these weird jurisdictions that even make it even harder for us to have that conversation. So it's a really it's a wild ride at the moment. But as I said to Brian, my joke is I've never been in an industry that screams, regulate us, please. Shut us down, give us something, like every other industry, like, how do we dodge the regulation? And we're like, no, here it is, please, this is what we want. Interesting. Look, I'm sure we could talk about the regulatory environment, the lack of insight, the lack of clarity, the impact that's having on the industry. But I want to kind of move on from that and start talking a little bit more about ANZ, right? Like, what do you think, Amy Rose? I know you and I, we work pretty closely now. We hang out quite a bit and talk about and share across the ditch. But what do you think is the next steps, or what does the future hold for Australia and New Zealand in this space?
Yeah.
Well, I would love for you to rebrand the digital economy of New Zealand. I think that would be step and really acknowledge the potential of this. I'll just plant that seed there. We have partnerships, across the APAC region, and I think the information sharing and the knowledge exchange is really important.
Yeah.
With you, Trev, it's our weekly or bi-weekly chats that we have is really refreshing. I do feel for you, and Australia is here for you because we know where you are right now. That's where we were, and the same can be said for some of the other jurisdictions who are further ahead than us. And so the relationship that we have, like with Singapore, for example, or the US, and you can go to our website. We've got some great partnerships across the APAC region. It's really good for us to see what our North Star is. And so these international relationships are incredibly important, because as much as you guide us, Trev, we might guide you. We're always guided by others who are way, way, way ahead of us.
Way ahead, yeah.
And vice versa. So it's incredibly important in my view.
This is one of the few times where I'm hoping New Zealand becomes a state of Australia, just so we can catch whatever progress and innovation Australia is doing.
Ooh, you heard it here first. We're going to cop that in the comments. all the gold and insight that this episode's dropped, it'll be that one thing. Brian Ventura says we should be a state of Australia now.
I mean, some people would say you already are.
Clickbait.
Well, as far as, laugh and joke about it as we see, like when I, in the last sort of few months, I've been advocating for, brands from the US, these big companies to come and give a shit, come into New Zealand, be a part of crypto winter, be a part of our scene here. You get it. It's like, where is it? Where is New Zealand? Aren't you guys part of Australia? Like they sort of just see New Zealand as like part of the Australian market. They don't even see it as its own independent market, and that's a huge mountain that I'm sort of that's ahead of me.
Wow.
Like I've got the mountain that I'm climbing now is, hey, we exist, right? Like here we are out here.
And they're still doing that too.
But the second one I see coming in the future is, and we're not Australia.
Yet. But we'll definitely test that digital economy of New Zealand with our members.
Well, it's funny you should say it, and I didn't want to bring it up, and now that you've gone back there, Brian, I will. There was a conversation I had with the CEO of NZ Tech about whether or not we should rebrand Blockchain New Zealand, whether the brand Blockchain New Zealand was still relevant and significant enough given the type of impact that we're trying to have. And I won't say what some of the names were that we threw around, but yeah, I'll go back to him after this. He might be watching.
I can offer my blueprint.
we have sign off from DECA to become DECA.
Go for it.
Okay, so speaking of DECA, what's next for you guys, Amy Rose? What you had DConference, you've managed to pull together parliamentary friends of blockchain, you definitely have momentum. You're definitely moving in the right direction. What's the next 12 months? What are you hoping to achieve, and what do you hope Australia looks like in 6 to 12 months' time?
Look, we're 2 days after the Digital Economy Conference wrapped up. We already started organising the next one. Well, we had the adrenaline flowing through our blood. So that's happening June next year in Sydney, just finalising the venue at the moment. But look, we've got the Global Digital Asset Regulatory Summit coming up that Blockchain New Zealand is going to be starring in as well. That's where we dive pretty deeply into what everyone else is doing and where Australia sits. It shines a bit of a light onto just the reg landscape and possibilities, opportunities, where we're lagging, where we're leading. We also have our industry awards, which are my favourite night of the whole year. We get to celebrate everyone, and it's just
the blockies.
Yeah, the blockies.
Speaking of stealing names, we did almost take that, right? Because we had our annual blockchain awards, and everyone's like, "What do we call them?" Because they're called the Blockchain New Zealand Annual Awards or something now, very boring.
So formal.
Like, let's call them the blockies, and everyone's like, "That's Australian."
Well, I would say next year we do it together, maybe.
Great idea.
That's a great shout. Yeah,
we'll probably be the same country by then. So, and we will host more parliamentary friends of blockchain. We'll launch that the report alongside DECA and the DFCIC that's sponsored by OKX in November as well. So we've got a number of events planned for next year that we're currently working on. We have a policy forum coming up and DLT enabled event, which really focuses on the blockchain as a technology and the different industry verticals that it's enabling. Yeah, so there's just a lot.
Yeah, non-stop, and
Exciting.
It's a pretty wild time to be a part of it, right? Like, there's nothing like being an advocate for blockchain in a bull run.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's keeping the head above in the bear markets. That's the real testament, I've watched so many people, and you know who you are, and I know if you tune into this, so you know who I'm talking about, who are all up in my face about it all during the last bull run, and then after a year or so of bear market, they suddenly sort of quietly slip out, and quietly slip away. And then just suddenly in the last couple of weeks, a few of them have started popping their heads back up again. It's like, oh, here they come back in the door. They're all excited and passionate. I've been here forever. I'm like, no, you haven't.
Updating the LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah.
I mean, the work that DECA is doing sounds like a really busy timetable. In terms of what's happening in Australia outside of DECA, but related to DECA, is there anything that you're excited about in the next 12 months?
I'm really looking forward to the consequences, or the positive collateral consequences globally of what the US is doing and the moves that they've made. I mean, that 180-day sprint and that recent report that they released, and obviously the Genius and Clarity Acts, and that's huge in a short amount of time. They have so many industry champions over there in the US. We could definitely take a leaf. So I am excited to see the collateral consequences of that globally, and the recognition of the opportunities that unlocks. And that's with respect to innovation and investment. And obviously the Trump and the US want the US to be a hub. And so they'll do everything that they can to make sure that happens. And we will be able to see firsthand, just watching from the outside, because they're not going to keep it a secret, what the benefits of this are. We'll be able to learn lessons from that. And it will be very, very obvious what the consequences are. And we won't be able to ignore it, because we'll see it rolling out. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, even just, what was it, yesterday or something, that Trump announced that all 401k investment schemes are going on chain now. So
that is massive.
That's an enormous part of their economy.
Yeah, trillions.
In your world, it's super. In our world, it's KiwiSaver. We have one KiwiSaver fund that's bold enough to have a Bitcoin, fund that you can allocate some or all of your super KiwiSaver to. And so I think, that move, again, another shot across the bow for TradFi, right? Like, what are you guys doing? The entire US 401k system has gone on chain and is now backed by crypto. Another person reached out to me recently, Brian, we're going to have them on the show soon, about Bitcoin-backed mortgages and, Bitcoin-backed stable coins, and starting to use Bitcoin as this sort of, we've been talking about it for years, but actually building our technology that uses it as that gold standard of value in the digital economy.
Woods.
So lots of exciting things going on. And speaking of the one KiwiSaver fund that is going to be that has a Bitcoin fund,
our sponsor
will be at Crypto Winter, which is kicking off in a few days' time.
No. You must be freaking out. I know exactly what this feeling feels like just before the conference.
So this space is going to look a hell of a lot worse in a few days' time from just your lack of sleep, stress. There'll be a bigger patch up here somewhere. But anyway, we're head down, tail up, slamming our foot against the floor on our lead up to Crypto Winter. Amy Rose, you'll be there. Very excited to have our friends and allies of DECA represented at the event. Are you excited to be coming over and spending some time? Have you packed your winter woolies?
It's pretty cold over here. I'm not looking forward to the cold over there. I'm not very good in the cold. I live on the sunshine.
Minus 2 degrees. Minus 2 degrees.
I haven't been to New Zealand before, so I'm very excited about that.
This is a baptism of fire or baptism of ice.
Yeah. If you've never been to New Zealand and you're going to Queenstown in the winter as your first experience in New Zealand, that's pretty special. That's usually the mecca of travel in New Zealand, and you're going straight into the top. So beautiful.
I've got my thermals. I'm ready.
Yeah. Thermals is going to be important.
Nervous about the cold.
And New Zealand's really excited to have Amy Rose being a key speaker of the event. For those who don't know, Crypto Winter is on 13 and 14 of August at the Rendezvous Hotel in Queenstown. Amy Rose will be sharing a lot of the alpha that she's seeing and she's working on in Australia. And then hopefully, as the new state of Australia, New Zealand can benefit from some of that hard work.
You see a man and championing his cause. So look, we're still getting ticket sales. I'm blown away. I thought it would be all allocated out by now, but there are still some tickets available. Still some more sales come through overnight. So if you are watching this today and you can make it down, I know it's we're almost there, so it's probably a bit tough for a few people. But please come and join us. This is a big moment for blockchain and cryptocurrency in New Zealand. It's our first major conference, and we really want everyone to turn up and let the community know, let the regulators know, let the government know that we care about this industry, that we care about New Zealand's role in it. This is our moment to stand up and be noticed. So hopefully we'll see you there. We will definitely see you there, Amy Rose, and we're very excited about that. Any final thoughts before we put a bow on this and wrap it up?
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for including me in the conference. Thanks for including me on the podcast. And thanks for that introduction, which is the wildest introduction I've ever had.
Brian, any last thoughts, mate, from you?
I was so excited to have Amy Rose on the show. I see a lot of interest from Australia, especially after Crypto Winter was announced, interest from Australia in the New Zealand market. And I think, if we can work more closely together, Australia and New Zealand, and make this just a region, one regional digital asset industry, I think that'll benefit everyone, definitely New Zealand.
Beautiful. And I just want to say thanks again, Amy Rose. Without you, there wouldn't be a Crypto Winter. A lot of the work that I do, it's true.
Oh my God. Turn my camera off.
Literally, Control C, Control V. I watch what you do. Like I'm as bad as New Zealand, and then I watch what you do, and then I go, oh, Amy Rose is doing that. Maybe I should do that too. So, thank you very much for being a leader, is what I'm saying in the space, and keep fighting the good fight, because you're amazing, you're awesome, your energy is infectious, and you're a wonderful person to have in the industry and on our show. And on that bombshell, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you probably a bit of a gap now. I think this is the last one before the conference, so it'll be another,
I think so.
maybe a week or two without an episode, and we'll see you on that next one. Take care out there, and bye for now.